So it's interesting, the part that doesn't have any light, the part that doesn't reflect, is the one that sees. Part, interesting. Because it's got to be black and white to absorb the radiation, so it absorbs all the light from around. But it itself has no light. It itself doesn't have any light coming out of it. So it's interesting, the black sphere devoid of light is the pupil. In Hebrew it's called the Ishon. So the Ishon comes from the word Ish. Ishon literally means a man, a small man. Some people translate a small man. And whatever we have in this world is similar in the worlds above. Where we learn it from, David HaMelech says in Psalms, he says, Mibsari echze eloka. From my flesh I will see God. What does that mean, you see from your flesh? That means in a person's flesh is the hints to the worlds above. It's hinted to. So the eye, person has an eye, you see through the darkness of the eye. So too in the worlds above, we have to explain what that means. You mean Hashem has an eye? No, of course not. But Hashem is aware of the world through the darkness of his eye. What does that mean, darkness of his eye? That means his self-abnegation, which we're going to talk about. The darkness. What does darkness mean? Darkness means removing the ego. Darkness means removing the ego, because the ego is who I am. Darkness is, I'm not anything, I'm zero. So that's the ego. So our natural laws of physics are manifestations of Hashem's metaphysical laws. So darkness is self-negation. The eye of the hurricane or the calm of the storm, reached through meditation, is the spiritual equivalent of the pupil of the eye. So what is the pupil of the eye spiritually? And the answer is it's the calm of the mind in meditation. That's the pupil of the eye. In other words, just like we have a physical eye, we have a spiritual eye as well. And the spiritual eye is a person removes their ego. So that's the blackness of the spiritual eye. What's the darkness of the spiritual eye? Removing one's ego from the spiritual eye. Okay? So the ego is what interacts with the world. When you remove your ego, what's interacting with the world? I'm not interacting with the world. The world is interacting with me, but I'm not interacting with others. So that is the key to experience Hashem. Self-negation, we talked about Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Anav Me'od Mikol Adam. It's interesting play on the word Anav. Anav, Aleph Nun Yud Vav. Sorry, Ayin Nun Yud Vav is the, if you can change in Hebrew, you can change the Ayin with an Aleph, and you can change the Vav with a Vet. Anav is the same letters as a Navi. It's interesting. If you change the Ayin with the Aleph, and you change the Vav with the Vet, you get Anav equals Navi. Same letters. Nun, Vet, Yud, Aleph. Or Ayin, Nun, Yud, Vav. So it's similar. So interesting. So humility is the key. Why? Because humility is like the darkness. You're blanking yourself out. The darkness of the eye. So just like there's the darkness of a physical eye, there's the darkness of a spiritual eye. And that's how a person experiences Hashem's presence. David HaMelech says, Enei kol elecha yisaberu. All the eyes of people will be towards you. V'ata noten lahem et ochlam b'ito. And Hashem will give, right, gives every person their food in its season. Right? Our eyes are towards Hashem. So we look towards Hashem, and we have to also make ourselves a vessel. We talked about the miracle of Elisha. Remember the woman, she didn't have any oil, or she had a little bit of oil, and she said, bring as many vessels as you can. So we have to form a vessel to get the bracha. But our eyes are towards Hashem, because Hashem is the source of bracha. So a person has to long for Hashem's presence. If you long for Hashem's presence, Hashem will reveal Himself to you. If you long for Hashem's sustenance, Hashem will give you sustenance. That's the eyes are towards Hashem. Our eyes are towards Hashem. So that is the window into our ego. When a person removes and thinks about Hashem all the time, they're creating a window into themselves. And through this window, Hashem communicates with us. Okay, which we're going to talk about, how to get communication to Hashem. The truth is it only comes through the soul. Communication is from the soul. And first we have to be able to connect to our souls. How does a person connect to their souls? What is your soul? What is my soul? How does my soul feel? So he has a beautiful, simple idea. The ego is selfish. I want. The soul is giving. A person who gives more than he gets is spiritual. A person who takes more than they get, takes more than they give, that's physical, that's ego. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. It's a very important idea. So mitzvot are Hashem's expressions of Hashem's will and attributes. By doing mitzvot, we are uniting with Hashem's will. We're making His will our will. You do a mitzvah, you're making His will your will. You just came to Minyan, you made His will your will. As many people don't come to Minyan. Why? They're eating dinner, they're going to work, they're busy, or they're tired, they're going to rest. So a person made, it's a big sacrifice. People don't realize. It's a tremendous mitzvah. And the Mishnah says in Poyah, right? Elu dvarim she'en shiur. These are things which no quantity. One of them is Hashkamat B'Knesset, going to shul. Hashkama, which is in the morning. Evening is much easier than the morning. Evening is the hardest. The morning is the hardest. But Mincha is also very hard. I mean, today it's hard all around. It's hard all around. We're busy all the time. So by doing a mitzvah, we are linking ourselves to Hashem's will. We're uniting with Hashem's will. We're uniting with Hashem's attributes. And through doing Hashem's actions, we experience His unity. We experience Hashem's Echad, Hashem Echad. We experience His unity. So in other words, the mitzvot are a step to get closer to Hashem. The ladder to Hashem is through mitzvot. You want to climb up the ladder to Hashem. Every time you do a mitzvah, you're meant to get closer. The trouble is we don't feel it. That's the trouble. Why? Because we don't think about it. So it's good to think before doing a mitzvah. I'm doing this mitzvah to get closer to Hashem. I'm doing this mitzvah because Hashem said to do it. And by doing this, I want to get closer to Him. Because the main point, we said, the whole purpose of serving God is to get closer to Him. I'm not doing it because I'm a robot. I'm not doing it because I'm scared. I'm doing it because I want to get closer to Hashem. So it's a very, very high level, madriga, very high level in service of Hashem. I want to get closer to Hashem. So that's called dvekut. In order to experience clinging to Hashem, in order to experience God's presence. So by imitating Hashem, one has to become a vessel to Hashem's attribute of nothingness. So, what does that mean? We're going to talk about that. It's a very deep topic in terms of Hashem's nothingness, and that's the concept of ayin. David HaMelech says in Shir HaMa'alot, Me'ayin yavo Ezri. What is Me'ayin? Aleph Yud Nun. Aleph Yud Nun means nothing. From nothing will come my help. Very strange statement. What's nothing? So the rabbis say the highest part of the Sfirot is Keter, crown. And that crown is called Ayin. The crown is called Ayin. What does that mean, Ayin? It's nothingness. What do you mean nothingness? It's nothing we can grasp. Nothingness is God. Because you can't grasp God. As far as it's interesting that the pagans thought Jews were atheists. Right? You look at the Greek and the Roman philosophers. Tacitus said the Jews are atheists. Why? Because they believe in a God who doesn't have a body, doesn't have a shape, doesn't have a form, doesn't have anything. In other words, they don't believe in anything. He's right. We don't believe anything. We believe in Ayin. We believe in a God who is above everything. He doesn't have any shape, no form. He's Ayin. He's nothing. It's amazing. Where is God? He's everywhere, nowhere. But even the angels don't know where He is. Angels say, Ayeh bekom kivodo. Where is His place? We don't know. Angels don't know. Imagine. No one knows. Why? Because He's nowhere and He's everywhere. It's wild. It's a mystery. So the pagans thought we're mad. The Jews are crazy. They're atheists. They don't believe in God. They're just making up the story. There's a God you can't see. It doesn't make sense. Today we know there are things in the world you can't see and they exist, like gravity and other things. You feel the effects of them. So same thing with Hashem. You feel the effects of Hashem, and the truth is Hashem is everywhere. But He's nowhere. He's Ayin. He's from where will come my help? Ayin. So we can contemplate parts of God's wisdom in creation, physics and science and chemistry, and all these are parts of God's wisdom in creation. We can think about the soul as the Torah mentions. We don't know anything about spiritual world. If it wasn't for the Torah, we'd have no concept of spiritual worlds. If it wasn't for the Talmud and other places where they talk about Olam Haba and the world of the souls, we wouldn't have a concept of this. Nothing. It's not mentioned anywhere. Science does not tell us about this. So thank God for these. We have a link to the future. We have a link to the next world through these stories. The concept of angels, the concept of miracles we talked about. Right? So that's Ayin. Ayin is God. Ayin is not just God. It's one of the highest Sfirot. The truth is, it's not that high because God is everywhere. God is even higher. I mean, we can't even talk about God. Even when we say nothingness, it can't describe God because God is not nothingness. We just don't know. We just can't understand. But one of the highest levels of dimensions we can talk about is Ayin. Ayin Yavo Ezri. From Ayin will come my help. From nothingness will come my help. And nothingness is where creation comes from. It's something from nothing. What's nothing? Hashem. Ayin. Ayin. That's amazing. Wild. It's amazing. Where did the Big Bang come from? Nothingness. It originated from nothingness. Interesting. Ayin Yavo Izri. So Hashem is Ayin, Hashem is nothing. The truth is, we can't even define Hashem as nothing. Because it's hard to define Hashem. Can't define Hashem. So it's one of the highest levels. The spiritual worlds, one of the higher levels of spiritual worlds. Because the truth is, the spiritual worlds are endless. If Hashem is infinite, all of the worlds He created is infinite. That's why this world is so complicated. Even the physical world is so complex. It's interesting. It's complex and it's simple. They're trying to find this universal theory which covers all aspects of creation, physical creation. So it's simple. They want to make it simple and it's complex at the same time. And that's exactly what the Arizal says about Hashem. Hashem, he calls Hashem or Pashut, a simple light. And how simple can Hashem be? Hard to imagine. So on the one hand, Hashem is nothingness. That's the definition of Hashem, is nothingness. Ayin. That's not really a definition of Hashem. This is a lower level. Hashem is way above that. What does that mean? There's no boundary. He's above boundaries, he's above the physical, he's above the spiritual creation. He's a place of pure potential. Like we say, he's something from nothing. What do you mean something from nothing? It's a place of potential. Hashem is the potential for the world. He's nothingness, which is the potential for the world. Something came from nothing. So nothing is the potential for something. That's ayin. That's one explanation of ayin. The second explanation of ayin, ayin yavo izri. Ayin comes from the word negate. Hashem negates himself and hides his essence. Just like a good father, a good parent would hide himself to give the child more room to grow. Right? The worst mother is, or the worst father is, the child falls down, pick him up. Every time the baby comes out, the baby's starting to walk. Every time they fall down, oh my baby, don't fall, pick him up. Don't let him fall, pick him up. So what happens? The kid's not going to learn how to walk. What's that term?
Helicopter parents.
Helicopter parents. They're there all the time and some people never grow up. Why they never grow up? Oh, my baby, let me help you pack. Oh, mommy, I'm 45 years old. It's America. Sometimes mothers are like that. I had a case. I knew a case. A relative of mine. Never got married. Mommy. And she was like, mommy. She nurtured him, and she loved him, and he loved her. And that's the relationship. He never got married. Mommy. You got to cut the cord, right? Umbilical cord. There's an umbilical cord. There's an invisible umbilical cord. Sometimes you got to cut the cord. And that's how an individual becomes an individual. Otherwise, he's dependent all the time. You got to make the kid independent. How do you make it independent? You cut the cord. My father used to say, leave the house already. You're 18, get out of here. Get married, go get out, get married, get out, get married. It worked, honestly it worked. All of us got married early. It's like, so I think that's the best remedy. I tried it, doesn't work sometimes. You can't, some kids you can't throw out. It doesn't work. You have to know who to practice on. Okay. But so that's the father withdraws or the mother withdraws in order to let the child grow, and that's what Hashem did. That's Tzimtzum. Hashem withdrew in order to let the kids grow, let us grow. Why is Hashem hidden from us? Because Hashem's there. Listen, if Hashem was not hidden, we wouldn't have free choice. If we have no free choice, we won't be able to grow. Our personalities can't grow. The growth of the personality is, what are you going to do when you're free? What are you going to do when you're independent? What are you going to do when you can't see Hashem? That's the question. When I can see Hashem, it's like, I can't speed. The police are right there behind me. I can't speed. The question is, are you going to speed when He's not around? That's the question. Same thing with Hashem. So Hashem makes space for us. He makes space for His creation. That's Tzimtzum. The idea of Tzimtzum, and that's Ayin. Ayin is, He's not there. What do you mean He's not there? He's not there because He's making a space for us. That's the second explanation of Ayin. So first explanation of Ayin is, He's nowhere. Hashem is nowhere because something comes from nothing. He is the nothingness, the potential for which everything else came from. And number two is He negates Himself and hides His infinite essence in order to give us room to grow. Make space for creation, that's Tzimtzum, which is self-effacement, Hashem's hiding. Talk about today, Hester Panim. So we always think Hester Panim is a bad thing. It's a very good thing. It means we got to a certain level where Hashem says, now you can do it. When I'm there and I'm helping you in this prophecy and this miracles, you didn't grow. Why not? You're reliant on me. I'm not going to pick you up every time before. Now you have to manage yourself. Now you pick yourselves up every time. It's much harder. But it's a higher level of living. It's a much higher level of living. So we don't appreciate it. We have so much free choice. I remember going when I was in Seattle. I gave a class over there, Shabbaton. And the other rabbi talked about, he was talking about Hashem, and people would say, I don't believe. He says, you are using your free will which God gave you. The biggest gift God gave you is free will, and you're using it against Him. But look how much free will He gave you. He gave you as much free will as you are able to use it against Him. Imagine. The father says, here son, you can do whatever you want now. And the son buys a revolver and uses it against his father. Imagine, think about it. Ungrateful. Same idea. The guy says, yeah, you created me, but I'm going to rebel against you. Same idea. Hashem says, I'm giving you the free choice, even to that point, even beyond that point. You can do whatever you want. You can rebel against me, you can do whatever you want. One day I'll get back to you. You're not going to escape completely. But Hashem makes space for all of us. That's amazing. That's the ayin. That's the second explanation of ayin. Hashem is in hiding. Apparent negation of His life. And that is light. In other words, that is the pupil. Hashem's pupil is where He negates His light, enabling Him to view creation as a separate entity and reveal Himself within it. So the darkness is the catalyst to providence. Obscurity allows God to interrelate with creation. Amazing. This is an amazing idea. The more the obscurity, the more we can interrelate with Hashem. The less obscurity, we don't really relate to Hashem, we're just robots. You can't relate to something which is a power over you. It's just a domineering kind of, there's no free choice, there's no voluntary relationship. Right? A voluntary relationship is when you moved out of a house and you're still in touch with your parents. That's voluntary. Involuntary is when you need them and you need, send me money, send me this, send me that. That's voluntary. So with Hashem withdraws. Hashem says, no, it's up to you. You want to have a relationship? It's up to you. It's purely voluntary relationship. The truth is we need God so much. A person's sick, a person needs money, a person needs this. I mean, who else is there to talk to? It's amazing. Thank God we have someone. God. Baruch Hashem. But the truth is you need to have that belief. You need to have that emunah. You need to have that logic. You need to have that knowledge to be able to do that. Okay, that's this. We talked about Kisei HaKavod. That's the idea of Kisei HaKavod. We said the word Kisei, throne of glory. The word Kisei comes from the word Kisui, which is covering. So that's covering, right? Covering. So that's a very important idea. Kisei is Hashem is covered. He enables, He conceals Himself, and appears separate from creation. And through that we can approach Him. So how do we approach Him? By mirroring Him. We negate ourselves, we can approach Him. He negates Himself, He approaches us. That's wild. When God negates Himself, then He can approach us. When we negate ourselves, we can approach Him. It's wild. So it's a darkness of the eye. We learn from the darkness of the eye, because when there's no light, that's when you can see. It's wild. So when you're not giving off your own light, which is there's no ego, you can see others. When there is an ego, you can't see others, because the light, the pupil is not black. It's white. It's full of light. You're giving out your own emanations. And same thing Hashem. So we use that, this imagery, whatever that means. The Tzimtzum, the idea of Tzimtzum is the relationship. So we use this metaphorical imagery. In a similar manner, our inner self and our concepts affect our outlook and our experience on the world. Okay? So it's our ego. We see the whole world through our egos. So since a person is mean and selfish, he says, everyone around me is mean and selfish. Even though he did me a favor, he only did me a favor because he wants something from me. Because the guy's a mean guy. He has no concept of just giving purely for the sake of giving. It's very hard. It's very hard. Today, we're all cynical because we're raised in a cynical society. It's very important not to be naive, because you're naive, you get taken advantage of. That's the case. That's what it is today. So then what happens is we're cynical. And that's why a lot of people don't get married today. They're very cynical. Let's not get into that one now. But a lot of people don't get married. Why? Because they're cynical. Especially now I'm hearing stories from Manhattan. It's like, I don't know, there's so many people, there's so many guys, so many girls, and they've been so many dates, they're just cynical. They don't want to be burnt anymore. They've had enough. So even though they're talking to you, they're like, my son said, their eyes glaze over. Cynical. It's very hard. That's why it's not good to go on too many dates, because then you've seen everything, you've burnt everything. It's a pain. It becomes a pain. It becomes a chore and a pain. 5, 6 max. How much? 10 maximum. That's it. Yalla. 10. Give yourself a cutoff. Say, listen. Otherwise, there's no end. There's no end to the limit. And it just gets. It's painful. It gets painful. More painful. People get fed up. They get burnt out. So anyway, the bottom line, Hashem is referred to as Ein Sof. So he said ayin, which means nothingness. Ein Sof means no limits. Hashem is infinite. How do you say infinite in Hebrew? It's interesting. It's two words, negative. Ein Sof. Ein Sof. There's no end to Hashem. Why? We don't want to describe God in a positive way, because we have no concept of a positive way. So if we say infinite, it describes God, infinite. We say Ein Sof, there's no limits to Hashem, which means we don't really define Him. It's not really right? It's not really a definition, it's a lack of definition. We don't know how to define Him. Ein Sof means we have no limits, we have no way to define Him even. It's very dangerous to define Hashem, because you put Him in a box already. You define Hashem. That's why we're not allowed to describe God in any way which the prophets never described God. We're not to make our own terms for Hashem.
How about how Hashem described Himself?
That's it. Once it's written down, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it down. Those are the ways. That's it. So we can't talk about attributes of Hashem. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, that's it. We can't come along. That's why it's dangerous to write your own tefillah. Because you're addressing Hashem, you have to be very careful. How do you address Him? So you make up your own addresses. It's asur. So it's not allowed to add.
How Hashem described Himself.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's in the Torah already.
Share it yet.
That's it. But I mean, it depends also. It's not really Hashem describes Himself. It's the way Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it down. But we have to realize some things are metaphors. I mean, the truth is, all names are metaphors. Hashem has no name. He's nameless. But Hashem says, you're going to call me, this is my remembrance forever. So, whatever that means. And even that, remembrance doesn't mean remembrance. Remembrance just means it's a hint. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is a hint to Hashem. It's the closest we can get to Hashem, through His name, whatever that means. It's like a doorway. The Yud-Kei Vav-Kei gives us something we can think about. It's just a doorway in our minds to Hashem. That's it. It's not really God. It doesn't really define God. You can't define Hashem. That's the trouble. You can't define Him. You can't put your finger, because then He's not ayin anymore. And ayin for nothingness. Once you define it, it's not nothingness anymore. It just shows how little we know about it. We have nothing. We have nothing on Hashem. We don't even know Olam Haba. Ayin lo ra'atah Elokim zlatech. Only Hashem saw Olam Haba. We know about Yemot HaMashiach, but we can't define Olam Haba. There's no definitions. No one's been to Olam Haba to come back and tell us. And no one's seen Hashem. It's like, Lo yirani hadam v'chai. You can't see Hashem. You can't come back and tell me, Hashem looks like this, by the way. There's no such thing. Because even if you see Hashem, you're seeing a little portion of what He revealed. That's it. You can't see the totality, because Hashem is Ein Sof. There's no end to Him. We are ended. We're finite, and He's infinite. How can the finite mind comprehend the infinite? It's impossible.
What's in that book? Everything is vapor.
You got me on that one, Albert. I don't know that book.
Nothing. I think it's,
We're all from Hashem.
what?
Everything is vanity?
Right.
Shlomo Melech says in Kohelet, vanity of vanity is all is vanity.
Vapor is there a relation to what God is?
No, that's not. No, he's not talking about God over there. And then because he defines everything under the sun. But so the Rabbi says, Rashi says over there, everything above the sun is something, but beyond it. It's all the physical desires a person has, all the physical strivings we have, eventually are going to be vanity. You can't take it with us. It doesn't last. It's not lasting. Whereas the spiritual desires above the sun, trying to reach higher to Hashem, that is worthwhile. That is something which lasts. But you're right, in a different sense, the spiritual is intangible. Spiritual intangible. So that's the deeper meaning of the Kisei HaKavod. Kisei HaKavod is the throne of glory. Literally means the throne of glory, but it's hiddenness. Hiddenness. Hashem hides behind that mist. The kisui, the curtain. Okay. Our inner self and our concepts. So our ego really affects our outlook on life. The Mishnah says in Negaim, chapter 2, Negaim, which talks about leprosy, that we know that who comes to examine the person? Kohen. Right? The Kohen has to examine the person. Why can't the person examine himself? No one will say that they are tamei themselves. No one will say they're sick themselves. You have to go to the Kohen. The Kohen has to be the one to examine. So the Mishnah says we can see blemishes except for our own blemishes. Everyone can see blemishes, but we can't see our own blemishes. Why? When it comes to ourselves, we're biased, totally biased. And that's why it says, "En adam masim etzmo rasha." A normal person does not make himself a rasha. If a Jew goes to court and says, "I did this bad thing," the court says, "We don't believe you." In Jewish court, we don't believe. person says, I admit guilt. We don't believe you. You don't believe it. I'm saying I did it. Sorry, we don't believe you. If you're a normal person, you're not going to say you did something bad. No normal person is going to say it. If you do say it, you're covering up for someone else. It's wild. Jewish law. The guy says, I murdered. Oh, you didn't murder. You didn't murder. I did it. I'm telling you, I did it. You go to a secular court, they say, I did it. They'll put you in jail straight away, no problem. But you go to a Jewish court and say, I did it. We don't believe you. You don't believe me. You're covering up for someone else. A normal person is not going to say, I did it. Not going to admit to something bad. A person does not see their own blemishes. However, all the blemishes we see in others are a reflection of what we see in ourselves. Because it takes one to know one. So you see someone speak Lashon Hara, you can recognize this is Lashon Hara. I know. How do I know from my own experience? You see this guy is envious. I recognize it because I see it myself. Otherwise you have no concept of what it means. So the fact that you can recognize it in someone else implies that you can see it in yourself. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov says that, but the Arizal already says that. When you see someone else's flaws, you're really seeing your own flaw. And that's the danger. The danger is a person is judging. When you judge others, you're really judging yourself. That's what Arizal says. Arizal says, when you judge other people, you see them doing something bad, and say, oh, he did something bad. Arizal says, hey, 1 second. If you did that, thank yourself. That's why it's so dangerous to judge others. Because when you judge others, it's so dangerous. It's hard to be a rabbi, you know. You give a psak. Is this allowed or not allowed? Hey, but did I do it myself? I just gave a psak. If I did it myself, boy, I just told the guy it's asur. I did it. I couldn't do it. So a person got to be very careful, huh? You got to be clean, huh?
When you're a kid and get in a fight, you call your name.
Yeah.
It takes one to know.
Yeah, I guess. They call your name. Sometimes you don't understand the name, then there's no problem. When you understand the name, it's a problem.
Those kids get bullied and they go into service later on.
They go into therapy later on as well. Anyway, let's move on. So, by reforming our ego, because the ego is the thing that blocks us. The ego stops the black being black. The ego thinks, I'm full of light myself. I can see and I know and I know. So if you know already, there's nothing we can teach you. If you go to school saying, I know everything, there's nothing we can teach you. If you go to Hashem and say, I don't need you because I know everything myself. You know the joke about the guy who got married, he sold his encyclopedias. So why did he sell encyclopedias? He says, my wife knows everything. I don't need encyclopedias anymore. So if you know everything, I can't tell you anything. There's nothing to discuss, nothing to talk about, because you know everything already. I can't tell you. And the same thing applies. The person thinks he knows everything. Hashem says, you know everything, so you have no point. There's no point of contact over here. But when a person realizes, I don't know, and I want to know, and I really want to know, and I really want to see Hashem, and I really want to see you, Hashem, through meditation, through mindful prayer, through purposeful mitzvot observance, we can arrive at this concept of reality, which will influence our surroundings and our consciousness. Amazing. Think about this. So we ourselves decide what we're going to do in our lives in terms of our spirituality. How? By our egos. So a person says, you know, I know it all. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I want it. I have enough. I don't need it. I want physicality. That's all I want. Okay, that's it. You just defined yourself. You just limited yourself. A person says, you know what? I know I'm a zero. There's a God above me who's amazing, big. I'm just part of a little cog in the wheel. I want to know more. I want to get closer to my Creator. Hashem says, okay, now you're opening up. You're opening up a door. And that door is called the eye. It's not a physical eye, it's a spiritual eye. It's the ayin of the ayin. Ayin in Hebrew is an eye is within the ayin, and nothingness is within aleph. So you're making the eye of the soul is the nothingness. Person says, I am a nothing, or you just open your eyes, the spiritual eyes. Amazing. You open your physical eyes through the black of the eye, which is nothing. And a person opens the spiritual eyes by the black of the spiritual eye, which is the making the ego into zero. Very powerful, very powerful. So that's the play on the word ayin and ayin. That's the name of the book. The ayin of Izri is with an aleph, and ayin with an ayin it means the eye. So nothingness and the eye are related. One is with an aleph, one is with an ayin. Amazing concept. Amazing concept. There are two types of seeing. There's seeing with the neshama, and there's seeing with the ego. What difference does it make? So neshama, we said, is giving. It's empathy. Empathy. It's very hard to be empathetic all the time. Why? Because then you get hurt. It's hard for me to be a rabbi. Sometimes listen to someone's problems, or you're a doctor listening to someone. If you have a feeling, if you have a heart, and you have empathy, you hurt. You hurt for that person. That's why it's hard to go and see a sick person. It's very, very hard to go and see a sick person. Oh, it's very hard to see an older person. That's why you have to go. It's Mesirah Nefesh, really. Why? Because you're getting hurt. If you really empathize with someone, you're really getting hurt. So there's a self-defense mechanism by which you harden your heart. I don't get hurt by someone. So therefore I'll go and I won't feel anything. You just blocked your soul. Because the soul is the source of the empathy. It's hard to do it. It's hard because it hurts. Your soul is in pain because you're seeing someone else suffer. You know, the trouble with all these videos of gory death and destruction is a person loses their sensitivity. They're losing part of their soul. The soul is a sensitivity, empathy for others. It's a video. Everything becomes a video. Even real life becomes a video. You see pictures on the news, all these people that blow up in the bombs. We don't even pay attention anymore. Our minds are numb. It's terrible. We don't think about their pain and their agony. It's hard to even think about it. We'll blow a fuse if we think about it. How much pain there is in being blown apart. I don't want to think about it. Okay. But it's just so. It just shows there's two ways of looking at something: with the neshama, which is empathy, or with the ego, which is critically. Okay? It's very, very fascinating, right? You see something with empathy, that's a neshama. Oh, this poor person, he needs help. That's empathy, that's the soul. This guy just wants money, that's the ego. Now you got to figure out which one's right, though. It's hard to know. I'm looking at it with my soul, but on the other hand, does he really need it? Does he just pulling my leg? It's so hard today. You don't know. There's so many robbers and thieves and liars and charlatans. On the other hand, Rabbi Akiva says, "Shelach lachmecha pnei hamayim." Throw your bread on the face of the water. Because if you're not going to throw any bread at all, no one's going to get anything. You're not going to give it tzedakah. Very simple. I don't believe anyone. Don't trust anyone. But if you give a little bit to everyone. Chances are you're going to hit the bullseye once or twice. 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%, 20%. What you can do. So what you do is try and check out as much as you can. You go to the yeshiva and you give it to the Rosh Yeshiva. You go to the place and you want to give it to support, and they're doing a good job, whatever it is. It's an organization, and you help them. You see where the money's going. You can see they're using it for well. So those are the people you help. Person you don't know, you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I'll never forget, the guy came to me for collecting. He says, "Why don't you open also your own organization? That's your retirement." I said, "Sorry, that's not my job. I don't." As you go around, open an organization, you call it collecting, that's your retirement, that's your fund. It becomes your fund, your private fund. Okay, you can view that as a fund, or you can view it as robbing people. I don't know. Different ways of looking at it. I don't know. I get involved with that. So anyway, it's interesting. So if you're doing a good job and you're, helping other people, okay, it becomes your livelihood as well as your mitzvah. So what's it doing? You say, "Listen, I need to do a mitzvah. I'd like to have a hotel for free and help people." And the trouble is, I don't have unlimited funds, so if I'm going to charge them the basic amount, enough to make this hotel work, but I'm doing it for the sake of Hachnat Aruchim, the whole thing becomes a mitzvah. It's a not-for-profit. Anyway, so we have to transform our ego into the ayin, the ani into ayin. Me, ani, into ayin. I'm going to transform ani, which is me, the ego, into Aleph Yud Nun. Aleph Nun Yud into Aleph Yud Nun. Think about it. The me of the ego has to turn into the nothingness. How do you turn yourself into nothingness? And by turning oneself into nothingness, he opens his spiritual eye of ayin. So 3 ayins over here, so far. There's ani, there's ayin with an aleph, and there's ayin with an ayin. When I transform myself, the ani of me, into an ayin, I just take the letters and jumble them around. Ani, ego, becomes nothingness. That nothingness opens the spiritual eye, the ayin of the eye. Amazing. And what is the catalyst? Love. What is love? In Hebrew, it's very dangerous. This word love is such a dangerous word. It's a horrible word. I hate that word love. Why? Because it's misused. I love pizza. So what do you do with it? I eat it. That's how you show your love. That's how people show love today. What it means is I love myself and I desire pizza. Okay, I want pizza. I want pizza and I love myself. It's totally misused. It's total opposite of the meaning. The guy says, I love this woman. Yeah, that's what they say in Hollywood, right? How long they stay married? I don't know. Could be the fourth wife, fifth wife, fourth husband, fifth husband. I don't know. Love in Hebrew is ahava. Hav is giving. Love is giving. That's what I mean by love. Love is it's a sick word today. It's not used properly. I love pizza. I love apples. I love salmon. I love this. I love that. You love the whole world. He loves the whole world. Why? Because he wants everything. So love is giving, and that's the essence of transforming the ego into nothingness. Love. Why? Because the ego is what I want. But when I give, I'm transforming me into nothing. Right? Giving me is what I want. I want I, ego. Ani rotze. But giving is have, give, ahava, love. That's love. So that's how you transform oneself into. So a person says, we know this. A person, Mesirut Nefesh wants children, right? Pay so much. I tell you, I can't believe how much it costs. And then if you think about it, you go crazy. Sending kids to yeshiva, sending kids to school, whatever it is, just buying the uniforms. It's a private school. You need to buy uniforms. It's crazy. What love? I know how my parents sacrificed for me. That's why I'm still here. That's why I'm here. That's why I am what I am. They sacrificed for me. I remember how much they sacrificed. So it's very important. But a sacrifice, that is love. That sacrifice is love. Self-sacrifice, self-abnegation. When you sacrifice for Hashem, a person wakes up early. What does that show? Love. I love you, Hashem. Why? I'm giving you my sleep. Well, what can I give you? Gosh, stop. Right? I'm out this in the hot weather. That's love. Right? I'm not feeling well. I'm still doing it. It's love. It's love. So unselfish giving dissolves the boundaries of self. That's amazing. Unselfish giving. How do you want to transform the ego into the giver? Unselfish giving. How do you transform the ego into the ani of ego into I, into nothingness? By giving. And that's why ahava is have, give. Love is the soul. Love is the expression of the soul. Olam chesed yibaneh. What is love? Chesed, really. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Loving your friend as yourself. What is the mitzvah of that? Which mitzvah is that? Rambam says chesed. How do you show love of someone? Chesed. You do kindness. So the truth is, love is kindness. It's interesting. It's a better explanation of love. When a person says love, they don't think of kindness. They don't think of giving. That's the Jewish definition of love. It's very, very important to get the word out on the street. The Jewish definition of love is not desire. The Jewish definition of love is giving. And it's chesed. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, as the source Rambam says of the mitzvah of chesed. Where does he say it? He says it in the laws of Avilut of all places. Laws of mourning. Which is very hard to find, by the way. You look at the Rambam. Where's the laws of mourning? And the answer is the book of Shoftim. Book of Judges, because that's where death penalties and then mourning. Puts in the laws of Judges. It's right at the end of the Rambam, Mishnah Torah. Towards the end. Before he talks about Mashiach. It's interesting. So, it's interesting. So the vehicle is ani, me, becomes ayin, becomes nothing, becomes ayin, the other I. But there's another word we have to link to. That is the ani of ayin. With an ayin. Al netilat yadayim. Rashi Tevot Ben Ish Chai says, ani, a poor man. When a person says, Al netilat yadayim, you're meant to lift up your hands. Like, potech et yadecha, right? Lift up your hands. The Arizal says, you lift up your hand to your face. Say, Hashem, Al netilat yadayim, I am poor, you give me shefa, you give me energy. I'm making myself into a vessel to receive. Amazing kavanah. So the anagram of the word ayin of I is ani, poor. So look what we did. We said ani, me, becomes ayin, becomes nothing. And so since I'm nothing, I'm a poor man. If I'm poor now, I can open my eyes now. A poor man, so the person says, I don't know enough, I need to learn. He just made himself poor in learning. And I can open his eyes and he can start learning. It's amazing. So these four words are related. So the ani, the me, is the vehicle of the individual's expression and grasp. That's his ego. And he can change that into ayin. We can reach out and nullify ourselves to Hashem. And then we can open our eyes.
when you preach this, no ego. The person has to realize.
You have to have an ego. We're going to talk about ego. You have to have an ego. That's our next.
No ego.
That's the next section. Next section. Self-esteem. Coming to it. So when we say you have to negate yourself, doesn't mean you think you're zero. What is humility? We said. We talked about that last week. We said humility is self-esteem plus God. I know I'm able to do this, but I know without God I can't do anything. God gave me these capabilities. A person always has to come back to God, and that is the humility. Oh, that's what humility is. Humility is, I know my capabilities, I have to know these capabilities came from Hashem. That's hard to do. Because once you know you're capable, it's hard to say Hashem gave it to me. I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and then the person says, there's all God's gift. But you just did it! Didn't you say you did it? Yeah, but I'm incapable by myself of getting all these gifts. Hashem must have done it for me. It's very hard to cut to that point. Okay, let's just complete this concept of the I. It's a two-way process. This is very important. Opening our hearts to His infinite kindness allows holy influx to enter our personal existence and build our individual me, ani. Our house for God on earth. So by being humble, the person says, I need help, Hashem. Hashem gives His holy energy into you, and you become the vehicle for God in the world. That's the Merkava of the Shekhinah, which is very high level, which is the level of the forefathers. Rashi brings it down, the Chumash. The level of the forefathers was the Merkava, the vehicle for God in the world. By dissolving our separateness and attaching to Hashem, now, a person has an ego, we're separate, we're individuals, each one of us individuals. How do I attach myself to Hashem? I've got to dissolve that barrier between me and Hashem. And that barrier is the ego. Alright. He says that's how a person becomes, that's the difference between a ketonet or and ketonet or. Remember when Adam and Chava sinned? What does it say? It says they thought they were naked. So Hashem made them ketonet or. He made them garments of leather with an ayin. But the Kabbalah say before that they had ketonet or. They had garments of light. So they took the light, which is the humility, and they made it into leather, which is ego. It's a lower level, right? So that's the trouble. Today we have garments of leather, which is ego. Our egos are just enmeshed in us, and we have to go back to being garments of light. Okay, that's really the whole thing. So the eye of the mind depends on ego. The less ego, the bigger the eye of the mind is. The more ego, the less the eye of the mind is. The more the ani, the bigger the ani, alif nun yud, the less the ayin, the less the nothingness. The less the nothingness, the less the ayin, the other ayin of the ayin. Okay, let's move on, because a good question Albert asked about what about self-esteem? What about self-esteem? So, he calls in the book, he calls page 55, calls it soul esteem. But it's really self-esteem. But the person's going to know who the self is. That's the trouble. Who do you associate with who you are? Do you associate? Well, most of us just look at our bodies. That's who I am. You look in the mirror. That's my face. Wrong. That's not who you are. That's who your physical body is. But what about your spiritual body? Oh, I wish we could see it. The truth is, we can't see our spiritual bodies. How do we see our spiritual bodies? By seeing what we do. See what you do. You're doing good deeds. You're doing beautiful deeds. That's who your soul is. You're doing generous deeds. That's who your soul is. You're mean, selfish, rude. That's who your soul is. Terrible. That's who we are. So the soul you cannot see directly, but you can see indirectly. A person's a fine, sensitive individual, soul is shining. A generous individual, soul is shining. And the opposite. So a person can see the soul, but you can't see the soul directly. That's the trouble. Pardon? Of course, 100%. Speech is very critical. A person has dirty speech, obviously the soul is dirty. No question. It's horrible. And that's one of the problems of society today. It's not even talked about. That's why Torah says, Kedoshim to you have to be holy. And Ramban says one of the things that makes a person holy. Where does the Torah say you're not allowed to use bad speech? The answer, Ramban Nachmanides says, Kedoshim to you, be holy. Holiness is clean speech. Part of it. Clean speech. That purifies the soul. The dirty speech sullies the soul. But obviously, we're talking about different levels of the soul. High levels of the soul cannot be sullied at all. Once a person says use a dirty word, the soul goes away. It's gone. The high parts of the soul gone. You can't dirty the soul. Hashem, the soul you gave me is pure. Which soul? That's the high levels of the soul. They go away. They don't even come. The low levels of the soul, a person can dirty the lower levels of the soul. That's why Gehenna is there. Gehenna is a spiritual cleanser for the soul, unfortunately. Hell is a spiritual cleanser. It's like a spiritual washing machine. My rabbi in England used to tell me. It's a spiritual washing machine. Just very, can you imagine sitting in the washing machine? You know how hard it is sitting in your washing machine? They go to the dryer. That's even worse. It's a spiritual washing machine and dryer for the soul. Aye. But which part of the soul? The nefesh. Low levels of the soul. The high levels of the soul are not inside the person when they sit. Gone. It's gone. But the low levels of the soul need to be purified. Suppose we're going to go to Gehenna, Bar Minan, to get purified. So the truth is, we have to try and purify ourselves here. And you have less trouble in the next world. It purifies itself in this world through suffering and through learning Torah and through all the difficulties in life. Person purifies themselves, but only if they become more sensitive and more sweet and more mellow and more kind and more generous. These are things that's the signs of a good soul. That's the sign of a healthy soul. Empathy, it's hard. Honesty, so hard. It's so hard to be honest. Even small white lies, it's so hard to just say the truth. It's so hard. It's a big test, a massive test. And it's sometimes a person gets so used to it, they just say it. Small things. We've got to teach ourselves to talk the truth. So what about self-esteem? Albert, what about self-esteem? Chovat levavot, duties of the heart. Look what he says. If a person does not appreciate their own innate self-worth, he calls it soul worth, which is important. There's two kinds of self-worth. There's what you are capable of physically, and there's also a soul worth. What are you capable of spiritually? And that's the part we can't even see and we can't even grasp. What am I capable of spiritually? I have no idea. You know what you're capable of spiritually? How fast can a swimmer swim? How do you know? He's an Olympic swimmer. How fast can he swim? He's got to try his best. How high can your soul go? How do we know? We'll try our best without killing ourselves. Because the mitzvah to live. The person's got to eat. They got to drink. The guy says, I'm going to fast. Go to this. Don't overdo it. You got to watch out. Watch your body. Because the soul without a body is gone. It's gone. So we have to stay alive and try and maximize. Look at the prophets. Moshe Rabbeinu went 40 days and 40 nights without eating. Eliyahu Navi did the same thing. It says on the strength of the food Hashem sent him through the angel, he ate and drank. He ate that food, and it's 40 days and 40 nights he's able to go without any food. They're really spiritual beings. They become spiritual beings, and you can see how much physical things the person needs. The more you need, the more physical you are. The less you need, the less physical you are. But again, a person's got to be careful, not damage themselves, not damage their bodies. Because that's key. Number one is we cannot serve God if you're not alive. If you're not alive, you can't serve God. Very simple. And for no free will, you be a soul, you don't get merits. Only when you're alive with free will in this world, this hidden world, this world of Hester Panim, can we get merits in this world. And the Torah says, the Chai Bahem is very, very strict. Stay alive. It's the biggest mitzvah to stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive. Choose life, choose life, choose life. B'chata b'chai, choose life. There's only three things a person's going to give his life for, three cardinal sins. Everything else, choose life. Eat in Yom Kippur, break Shabbat, all Pikuah Nefesh. Save life, save life. So we have to, this is very hard. If you say it's self-esteem, it's fine. I can think about my self-esteem. I'm capable of this, capable of that. But if we call it soul-esteem, who knows what the soul-esteem is? How much am I capable of souls? Spiritually, how much am I capable of? So he says, the Chovot HaLevavot says, a person does not appreciate their innate soul worth. I can look at the Hebrew of this. Interesting to see. And have clear knowledge of their good traits. Then his self-negation is like the submission of animals. An animal submits to the master, right? The horse follows directions. But the horse doesn't even know what its own self-worth is. The horse doesn't even think. I know how to think. What is my self-worth? That's why slavery became, they abolished slavery, because humans started thinking about their self-worth. Hey, I'm a human being as well, right? Especially when they learn that, it's interesting, I was reading books about the Negroes, how do they learn about self-worth? The answer is they learn it from the Bible. They went to church as well. They had their black church, and the masters had their own church. So, wild. And so, sitting in their church, listening to the Torah being given, think about it. They read the Old Testament. Man was created in the image of God. It doesn't say white man, black man. So we're worth something. It's amazing. If you read the books, Uncle Tom's Cabin and other books, you see where they get this concept of self-worth from. Soul worth. They got it from the Torah. Thank God they got it from the Torah. The Torah is the universal code. It gave us man was created in the image of God. Every who? Which color?
Maybe white.
Any color. Which race? Which religion? Doesn't say. There's no religions. So wow, it's crazy. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Why? It gave a person self-worth. It gave a person soul worth. Image of God is soul worth. Why? How do I know my soul is worth something? Because Hashem blew my soul into me. And we say every morning, we know we have a soul. So Chavah says amazing concept, spiritual concept. A person's going to know their soul is worth. How do you know what your soul is worth? Oh, very good. Self-dignity, the underpinning of a healthy psyche, is the foundation of one's personal kingship. Malchut. That's wild. A person's going to be like a king. If I'm not like a king, then I can't control myself. I don't have to control myself. I'm not a king. We have to be the kings of our own castle. What's your own castle? Your own self. I got to control myself. I got to be a king to control myself. I got to say this amazing wild story. I just finish off with this story and we'll end off here. Rabbi what's his name? Tversky, Abraham Tversky. So he does drug intervention. Right? He addicts. He does addicts. So he deals with the young kids. They're on drugs. He says, tell me, he says, where do your parents throw their garbage? He said, the garbage can. He says, so why do you fill your bodies with garbage? All these drugs are garbage. You know they're garbage, right? You know what they're going to do to you? They're destroying you. Why do you fill your body with garbage? You know what they told him? He said 98% of people told him, because I am garbage. He says the whole problem is lack of self-esteem and lack of soul-esteem. So that's why the Torah is so important. It tells us right at the beginning, don't think you are zero. Hashem says, I created you in my image. Don't take it physically. Spiritually. I blew into you the nostrils of life, therefore I blew your soul into you. You have worth. Every one of us has terrific worth. We just don't understand. And that's what Chavah Levavot says. If we don't understand our worth, we'll never do anything in life. And we don't understand our spiritual worth, how much our soul is worth, we'll do anything spiritual. So it's very important. It's very important to focus. It's very hard to imagine. How much is my soul worth? I'm a part of God. And then we can grow. Okay, we'll stop here.